It is a great pleasure to welcome Abigail into the podcast. She's a musician and a singer-songwriter from St. John's, Newfoundland. How are you today, Abigail? Thank you for joining the
I'm
show.
good. You? Thank you.
I'm doing all
I'm
right.
actually from just a couple hours outside St. John's.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
tell us about the place where you was born and grew up.
Yeah. Well, I was actually born in Brampton, Ontario.
Mhm.
And when I was around 3 years old, I moved home to Newfoundland because that's where my family's from.
Oh,
And I live in a little community a couple hours away from St. John's called Hodges Cove. And there's not very many people here. There's around 200 people. So it's a very small but very close community. But I love it. I'm very proud to call it home.
I see. So, when did your love for music come about?
Uh, my goodness. I think I've been performing since I was probably like 6 years old. So it started at a very young age. I started out in the Kiwanis Music Festival. So that gave me the opportunity to start performing in front of people. And then when I was around, I'd say 11 or 12 years old, I kind of branched out and started doing um, bigger gigs. But my love of music kind of, was with me throughout my whole life, kind of. And especially where a lot of my family was into music, I kind of grew up around it and going to coffee houses in the community. It was kind of, always instilled there.
Mhm.
So yeah, I kind of grew up with it all my life.
Mhm. So I wonder about the artist name Abigail that you adopted. Most musicians and artists, especially the ones that I have on this show, have at least like two names, even if they are not of their birth name, but you've stuck with a mononym. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So I think it was when I released my first album when I was like 14. I'm 18 now, so a little while ago. I realized that I wanted to keep, my music life and my personal life separate. So it was at that time that I kind of adopted it is still my name. It's my middle name actually. So I was like, I think I'm just gonna stick
Mm,
with this, make it super simple, when someone sees it, easy or fairly easy to remember. But I still wanted to keep true to myself, which is why I took my middle name. But yeah, it was kind of just to separate everything. I could still, you know, go different places and use my actual name, but then whenever I performed, I kind of went by this other persona, which was kind of fun because I get to be not a different person on stage, but explore that new name.
mhm. Yes,
Yeah.
and another famous Canadian musician also goes by his middle name too, Drake.
Yeah,
Aubrey
yeah,
Graham is his first and last name.
yeah. No,
So yeah.
it's interesting for sure, and it's surprising when you realize how many people actually go by different different personas, right?
Mhm. Would it be okay if I ask you for your first and last name?
Yeah. Well, my first name is Haley, and my last name is Petal.
Mhm. Petal, as in like
So Haley
flower
Abigail
petals, right?
Petal. A lot of people ask me that actually, but it's Peddle.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh, right. It's like
but it
selling stuff.
sounds like the flower petal.
Hmm. Well, yeah.
Yeah,
So you're currently studying at McMaster University, right?
yeah, in Hamilton, Ontario.
Hmm.
So I started going to McMath. I went and attended the fall and winter semesters for my first year, and I'm actually in the medical radiation sciences program. So very different from
Hmm.
music for sure. But I realized through the pandemic that it was really important for myself to kind of have a backup plan
Hmm.
because over the pandemic, I lost a lot of gigs, and I realized that, performing could become very minimal very fast. So over that time, I had a lot of time to think. I did a lot of writing, but I realized that it's probably better for me to sacrifice, these 4 years and have something else to fall back on. But, music is definitely my priority. And I've been, lucky enough and fortunate enough to find gigs up in Ontario and different performance opportunities for sure, which is very makes me very happy because it's what I love to do for sure.
Hmm. So how's school going? I understand that you're going through a summer break right now. So
Yeah. So this is actually the only summer break I get, which is great because we're summer's coming up now. It's a lot of performance opportunities here in Newfoundland. So I'm very grateful for that. But this is actually the only summer I have off because every other one I have to go through for clinicals, like clinical
oh,
placements and stuff. So I'm kind of taking this opportunity to try to get as many gigs as I can and around the island. And yeah, it's been such a like opportunity for growth too. Like, yeah, I've been busy with school, but I've also been able to do a lot of writing while I was away,
mhm.
which is great in my opinion. It was a way to escape from it too. Like, yeah, I focused on my school and stuff, but when I had my downtime, I was able to focus on my music, which was really nice.
Mhm. By writing, you mean songwriting or yeah, writing in
Yeah,
general?
songwriting.
Mhm.
Yeah, which was great because you go through university, you have all these different feelings of
Yeah.
struggling, or you get a mark back that it's like not the best, you're not used to it. It's the same way in high school. So it's like all these different emotions, and growing up too and moving away and not, it's spending this whole different time by yourself. I thought it was a great time for songwriting, and I kind of took advantage of that in that way.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, since you made it through your first year of university, well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Was it a difficult journey or did you like sail through it pleasantly?
I gotta say it was not the easiest. I mean, I had some other things going on too, because not only was I attending university, but I was also moving away for school too,
Mhm.
right? So I was leaving my family, I was leaving all my friends, but I think I got like, it's not as hard once you get into it, and once you get in the groove of stuff, it's very, you know, and it was only 8 months too, right? So now that I'm back for the summer, it's nice to be home, but I did appreciate the time I was away actually, and it gave me time to, I don't know, discover who I was too, type of way, in growing up, you know? But I loved going to Mac. Like, in all honesty, I feel like it was just a great experience, and I don't regret going there at all. Like, it was an amazing experience.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
I have a friend too who studied with me during first year in Canada. But him and I we studied in different majors. His is actually nursing. So yeah, I hear that that can be very tough, the courses as such.
Yeah, it is tough. Time management is the biggest thing. And that's the advice I would give for anybody that's going into anything in the medical field is, if you put the time and effort in, like anything, if you manage your time well, you'll get through it.
So your first album is titled Country True,
Mhm.
and according to Spotify, it was released in 2019. So I'm guessing you were in high school when that one hit the radio, yeah.
Yeah, I was around 14 years old when I released my first album, and it was an amazing time. That's like the most I can say about it. I was in high school, so it was nice to release my album with the community as well. And that's the time that I really like everybody. It was almost like the entire community came in to support me. And it was just an amazing feeling, and seeing, you know, just everything that I worked so hard on to finally, get released and
Mhm,
show the world what I've been working on the past like year
mhm.
before, right? But it was cool. And now compared to my second album that I released back in October, it's kind of just how much I've grown since then too, not only in like my performance and the way that I perform, but just my songwriting as well. I feel like it's matured a lot, which is I think it's amazing to see that growth, like from what I've released when I was 14 to what I've released when I was 18. I think it was very cool, and it was just a cool experience. I mean, how many people get to say that they released an album at 14? Like, I thought it was a pretty cool thing.
Mhm. Yeah,
But yeah, it was a great experience.
yeah, I think so too. I don't know what I was doing in the age of 14, but one thing I was not doing was making music. So there you go. You've
Yeah.
one up me on one aspect of life. So, what are some of the highlights during the recording of that album?
Oh my goodness. I think my favorite part was the collaboration, like throughout the whole album, because not only did I have, other people come in and play instruments on my record, but also getting to write with other people. And I think that's one of my favorite parts being in the industry too, is the people that you meet. It's just the connections you make. It's nothing like anything before. I mean, you get together, you write this song, and it's almost like you're connected to this piece, right?
Mhm.
But that was my favorite part, was the collaboration and seeing other people come in and be a part of something that you're working towards. It's a great feeling seeing, people come together in that way.
Mhm. Right. So who would be an artist who has the most tremendous influence on you, and why is it Taylor Swift?
I don't know if Taylor Swift has had like a big impact. I had like I think mine is probably like Hank Williams and the Carter
Oh,
family and stuff like that, like old
oh,
country.
oh, I see.
For sure. I mean, growing up in the community that I'm here, and we grew up listening to old country music, and it's something that's just embedded in the community. So I think growing up, my love for that kind of grew, and I think a lot of my musical tastes and musical influences are through that for sure. Whether it's little trills or here and there, or like phrases that I've kind of grew up listening to it that way, I kind of adapted. So I think those are my biggest influences, is the old country singers for
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah, you should listen to Patsy Cline. She's the one
Yeah,
that has
yeah, her too, right?
that
And I
hit
think the
song.
biggest thing,
Yeah, Crazy.
yeah,
Right, that's a hit song.
yeah. So like the biggest thing is the way that they tell their stories too, right? And that's the part that drew me in at the very beginning, is the different stories that they tell through their songs. And I try to do that too, whether it's the way that I try to emphasize a story, or if I'm writing, try to make sure it's a clear and concise story, because I feel like that's the biggest thing that they had, is they had a story to tell and they wanted to tell it. So.
Yeah. So, to what extent do your mom and dad's respective music tastes influence your musical work?
Um, See, my music taste is very all over the place, if I'm being honest. I love singing country music. It's where I feel like I personally belong. But, folk music too. I grew up, my I guess like my family's very musically influenced on some aspects. So it's like some of it is like a little bit of rock, but it's like folk and country. And so, if my musical taste, if I'm like listening it in the car or something, it's kind of, I could go from rap to country to rock to 80s rock to, like, it's very all over the place. And I think, um, yeah, I think not only for my parents, but, you know, the community as well, just everything. It's like a big mixture of musical tastes for sure.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm glad you're an old school country music lover.
Yeah.
However, are there any like contemporary country musicians that you pay attention to?
Um, Lainey Wilson, I guess like you're meaning like new people, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess I've Lainey Wilson's become really popular lately, and I love the way that she performs. Um, and her voice is very unique. And in the country genre, I guess you have a lot of mainstream singers as well that I respect very much. So like you have Luke Combs, Morgan Wallen, very, you know, in-depth, not only performers, but the way they sing their songs. But if I'm being honest, like I draw a lot of my inspiration from the old country, which is, I guess, very niche, but it's kind of where I have the most respect for the music. I don't know, not that I don't have respect for the new country at all, because I do. It's just, I feel like it's a genre that keeps expanding, and I hope to be a part of that specific thing one day.
For sure. Yeah. Nothing beats the
Yeah.
classic.
Nothing beats the classic, exactly.
And I must admit that I've heard of Willie Nelson for a long time, but I've not heard his work. So, is there any songs or albums you would recommend me?
Let me see. Willie Nelson. I feel like there's a lot that there was this Ken Burns documentary that I watched a little while ago, and it really dove in to the classic country and kind of where it not only originated from, but where it's built on today. And it had like interviews from new um country artists as well on how it like developed the genre. So in all honesty, I would recommend like watching that documentary. I forget the name of it, but if you just look up like country music Ken Burns documentary, it should come up. And there was multiple episodes, but not only does it go into the musicians and the growth and development of the genre, but almost the like tragedies that followed. And it goes into the Grand Ole Opry and the country music royalties and everything. So the soundtrack to that is almost to the T of everything you need to know. So I recommend watching that. And if you have time, listen to the soundtrack. It's very, I really enjoyed watching. I thought it was very well put together,
Mhm.
actually.
Yes. I believe the name of that documentary is Country Music. So,
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
yeah, I've heard of Ken Burns' name for years, but I've never got a chance to really like look into his works. I know that he
Yeah.
does another docu-series about jazz music, and that one
Oh,
really intrigues me too.
yeah. I haven't seen that one, but I'm gonna have to look up that one now. Try to watch that.
Right. So, given that you are a fan of old school country music, yeah, you just mentioned the fact that there are some like personal tragedies of these like great musical artists. Which one stands out for you the most?
The most, I would say the, and this is kind of like a reoccurring thing because it's not only about one specific artist, but it's kind of followed through many artists' careers, which is sad. But whenever I hear of a plane crash, especially from before and like losing band members and stuff, I find that part is hard, especially because it's been, multiple, whether it's bands or people that have lost people in plane crashes. So I think when I hear stuff like that, it's kind of like kind of hits a different note for some reason. But yeah, those are the ones that probably hit the hardest.
I see. I'm not quite aware of country musicians who pass away due to a plane crash, but some of the most like famous rock artists have been so. Obviously Buddy Holly
Yeah, Richie
and
Valens.
yes, and Leonard Skinner. Yeah, that's another
Yeah,
one too. And in fact,
yeah,
the first like Latin American rock star, Richie Valens, with the song La Bamba, he was
yeah,
on the same plane with Buddy Holly.
yeah.
Yeah, that,
Which is another great. I love Richie Valens too. Like the old rock music too. I can definitely listen to like 50s, 60s. Um for sure. I mean, me and my sister actually perform together and that's one of the songs that we do is Come On Let's Go from
mhm.
Richie Valens. But
Oh,
yeah, another artist that I admire their work.
mhm,
And in the country music genre, like Patsy Cline was another one who, you know, tragically was in a plane crash.
mhm. Yes, one of my favorite classic rock acts that is like before the Beatles and such. Elvis is great too, but I really like Jerry Lee Lewis.
Yeah, another great artist.
Mhm.
And I think that's where my music kind of like mixes around, right? So it's like, I have 80s rock, 70s rock, but then I got like 50s and 60s. And sometimes I'll be in the car with my friends and they're like, do we have to listen to this? I'm like, yes, we have to listen to this because it's like just the best music, in my opinion.
Mhm. Yes, I'm quite the same in that I prefer like older music to what's coming out recently, and
Yeah.
obviously except your own music, which I think comes out recently. So
Yeah. Well, I try to take those old classic influences, right? So, yeah, I try to incorporate it as much as I can.
mhm. So your latest album is titled Different Roads. It was released in 2022. So between the first one and the second one, COVID happened. So
Yeah.
how did you manage to go through it?
Well, I think my biggest thing was songwriting. I It took me a lot of time I had a lot of downtime for COVID because I did have a lot of plans. I had a lot of gigs lined up. And then all of a sudden all that was, almost obsolete. And so I took that time to really settle in to songwriting. And it was kind of like my defense mechanism, I guess. I was like, that's how I coped with the non-existence of singing. I was able to, take how I was feeling, put it on a piece of paper, and kind of bring it out that way. So over the pandemic, I did a lot of songwriting. And then when it got to the time that I wanted to release a new album, I was very excited to get back into the studio and, while following guidelines and safety protocols and everything, it was kind of back to normal, and it was great to experience that feeling again, back into the studio, working on new music. And then yeah, when my album released in October, I was trying to find a title, I guess, for the album. And Different Roads is actually a line out of one of my songs, Mr. Darcy, which I wrote for a school project actually. And yeah, so I kind of use that. And not only did it come from a line out of my songs, but I realized that, this is a different direction for my music, and it was a time that I could grow. So I think Different Roads was an appropriate name. It was kind of like perfect fitting. So I was like, yeah, that'd be perfect.
So yeah, I listened to the album in its entirety. I like it a lot.
Oh, thank
Mr.
you.
Darcy is the third track of that album. And did you get it from the Pride and Prejudice character?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
So I had to do a book report in English class, and I was like, I really want to write a song. And I think I had written one other song before, but it wasn't very good for a book report. But this one I had a special attachment to because I had read the book Pride and Prejudice. And I was like, I think there could be something here for an actual, like, good song.
Mhm.
So when I wrote this, I, brought it to my manager, Zach Warner, who helped me kind of mold and shape it into what it is today. But the bones of it was there, and I knew that it was definitely a song that I wanted on the album.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's definitely where it sprung from, was Pride and Prejudice for sure.
It's great to hear that you are a fellow Jane Austen fan.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I certainly believe that she is the greatest English language novelist. Yeah, I think.
Yeah. No, I was so drawn in to it. And then after I read the book, I watched the film adaptation
Mhm.
with Keira Knightley.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this is just, I thought it was really well done. But yeah, I was just like, this. And while I was watching the movie, I was like, could my song fit in here somewhere? I was kind of like, does this make sense? Does this tie into the story? I wanted to try to keep it as true to the story as possible, but in the same sense, I wanted to make it my own.
Mhm.
Almost like, so when I, explain the story of Mr. Darcy, I try to explain it as like right person, wrong time type of thing.
Mhm.
So, it kind of relates in some specific things. It's almost like only people who have, familiarized themselves with the story would understand. But in the same sense, anybody who hasn't
Mhm.
watched the movie or read the book can totally get, wrong person or right person, wrong time situation.
Yes. I believe if I remember it correctly, Mr. Darcy was misperceived by Elizabeth Bennet, main character, and
Yeah, yeah. So another line is like first impressions, right?
Mhm.
So, they're not always what they seem. So, like Elizabeth, I find that the first time, she's kind of a little judgmental, maybe judging him a little too soon, and then she really like sees who he is. So I try to convey that as much as possible in the song.
Yeah, what I like the most about Pride and Prejudice is obviously the two characters who, and it has a lot to say about how, first impressions and appearances in general can be rather deceiving.
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
that you yourself can be affected by it, as well as being on the receiving end of that, of the misperception, which I myself have gone through both of those experiences in different times of my life. But another aspect that I remember the most is the Bennett parents, where you have the Mrs. Lady Bennett. He's like really fuss about and really like stress out about like marrying all the five daughters to different rich landowning people, and then the Mr. Bennett, he just doesn't care. Yeah, he's like really sarcastic in its like apathy towards whatever Mrs. Bennett was up to, and
Yeah.
it's a very
Yeah. No,
strange. Yeah.
yeah, and like I was saying earlier, it's like the storytelling songs. Like those are the things that I love, and I tried to, tell that story as best as I could in song form, you know?
Well, yes,
Yeah.
love to hear it. Like not to delve too much into Jane Austen, but what other books of hers have you read?
Unfortunately, that's the only one, which is very upsetting because I do really want to get into some other ones because just the way that she um her voice that she uses in her writing is just like you said, I think it's amazing, you know? So I do wish to hope, or I do wish to read some more in the future for sure.
Mhm. I would say Emma would be the next stop for you.
That's what you recommend?
Yeah, yeah. Just a
Okay.
second. I have a copy of it here. I just want to show you.
Okay.
Yeah, I hope I look forward to like getting into it too. But I saw the film version of Emma, the recent one at least. Um,
Okay.
so the title character Emma Woodhouse, it's a rich lady and all that, and she wishes to play matchmaker with all of her friends, and because she, despite being a single woman, she has an idea that she knows what love is, but all of her like matchmaking attempts turn badly for her and everyone involved.
Yeah.
So that's that.
Yeah. No, that's definitely, I'm gonna have to read that one next.
Hmm. So one thing that I would like you to, I guess, educate me about is the musical "Come From Away." I believe that's the title
Oh
of it, right?
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
you did a cover song of one of the, I guess, musical numbers with
Mm-hmm.
Rachel Cousins, who actually I'm going to have on this show um, in a few days. So I'll tell
Oh,
her that you
awesome.
said hi. So
Yeah,
yeah, so back
yeah.
to the question: what is the musical "Come From Away"?
So the musical Come From Away is actually the story of 9/11 and when all the planes got kind of stranded in Gander Airport here in Newfoundland.
Mhm.
So I was actually lucky enough to watch the musical when it came to Gander, or they were doing a tour before they went on Broadway, I believe. And it was amazing. That's all I had to say about it. I came out of the theater and I was in tears. I was sobbing. It was just the way they conveyed it on stage was like perfect. And I mean, I wasn't even born at the time of this event. So I only know it from videos or stories from other people, but the way that they played their emotions on stage was almost like it was, this is was happening again right in front of your eyes. And the way that they, acted out and the emotions they put into the song was just phenomenal. So when I got involved with the project, I was thrilled. I was like, I cannot believe this is happening. Like I get to be a part of this in, some small form. But they actually, so I was a part of the album they composed with all Newfoundland artists, which was an amazing experience. I was able to go in and record the parts, and not only my voice was on there, but I contributed to the song itself, So me and Rachel worked together in compiling this we didn't want to take directly what they had, but we wanted to take what they had and kind of make it our own type of thing. So we took that and recorded the parts. And I remember listening to the album for the first time. And I went out into my car and I plugged in my phone. I listened to it in its entirety. And I was just blown away. It was like the same feeling that I was watching the play and seen like Newfoundland musicians be a part of this. But yeah, it was an amazing thing to be a part of, and I was so fortunate and grateful that I was able to be a part of it.
Mhm. Was it based on a real event?
Yeah, it was based on the 9/11 attack on
Yeah,
the Twin Towers.
yeah.
So it kind of tells a story of, I think it bounces back and forth because it tells of a lady in New York, and then it tells of, people who are working at Gander Collegiate, the school,
Mhm.
and then it's like all these different stories from people that they've compiled together in this one musical. So it's tear jerking because it's like almost everybody can relate to it because at least one person can relate to one of the stories happening at this time, right? And I think that's an amazing part. Like they have people who were stranded on the airplanes for like 48 hours. They have people who, were stranded in this place. They didn't know where they were to. It was all new. So I think no matter who was watching this, everyone could relate to at least one character they've seen on the stage, which I think is one of the most heartfelt things about it. Is it's so relatable to anybody who went through that experience and remembers, where they were on that day.
Mhm. I see. Well, I
Yeah.
think if I remember it correctly, there were four planes being hijacked in that terrible day, and three of them met their, I guess, supposed destination, but the four was diverted because the plane passengers, uh, overwhelmed the terrorists, the hijackers, and then they diverted to another place. But I don't remember any one of them survive it.
No, I don't think I'm not too familiar with the other planes, if I'm being honest. I know one was in like a field or something, and then the two that hit the towers, but it's very, very hard to, especially the way that, Newfoundland contributed to when this happened. I think it's very
Mhm.
emotional getting into it.
I see. I guess I should revise the documents, official documents then. But so the song that you guys picked, you guys perform, costume parties. Did you pick that song, or was it assigned to you?
It was a sign, actually, yeah. So, and I was lucky enough, actually, I had listened to the album over and over and over again. And so I was familiar with every song on the album. And me and my sister, we would play it in the car. Like, and, we're like growing up in Kiwanis, we would do actually a category of musical theater. So we would, it wasn't abnormal for us to not be playing musical theater soundtracks. So we would listen to it over and over again. And when I got the call to be a part of this, first I couldn't believe it. I actually couldn't. And then I seen that I was going to be doing Costume Party, and that was actually one of my favorite songs on the album. So being able to take that song and make it your own, and I think, I was grateful enough to work with Rachel too, and I feel like, just made it the best that we could in our own sense. We tried to make it each our own, which I think I think we did a good job of that. It was a great time, I gotta say.
Yeah. So tell us about, when that song was played. What happened during the plot point of the musical?
Yeah, so actually at that moment, the planes had landed and certain people were coming to Gander Collegiate in Newfoundland, and they didn't have anything, right? So not only were people going out to get, you know, supplies they needed out to shoppers and stuff, but they needed clothes. So when people were bringing them, clothes that were either like donated or anything they could get their hands on, people start putting these, new clothes on, and it's almost like they don't recognize themselves. So I think the song Costume Party kind of, you hear it and you're like, oh, what a fun, which it is. It is a fun take on it, but it has a deeper meaning in it. So not only are these people putting on clothes and not recognizing themselves, but they kind of, relate it to a costume party.
Mm.
So yeah, I think that's the whole story behind it. It's kind of like not in this situation and having to, adapt to it, but then having this realization of like what is actually happening, you know?
I see. What's it like working with Rachel?
Oh, it was great. I found we had such a great time and like we respected each other. We're of two like different genres, right? So I think coming together for this one project and trying to contribute both of our um, personalities and interests into the song and making a beautiful like combination of it. She was great to work with. I can't say anything bad. I think we had a great time working together. I had a great time, just a great experience, being a part of this. It was amazing.
Yes, I happen to have listened to her latest album, Aura, I believe that's the title. It was quite extraordinary, and
Yeah.
I would assume that she's a very nice lady too.
Yeah, and I think she's working on some new music now, so you got to keep an eye out for that.
Oh, sure. I will. I'll ask her about it.
Yeah.
So, have you, ever since you reach Hamilton, I believe that's where McMaster is, right?
Yep.
Have you been able to find gigs and shows there?
Yeah, so I've actually performed in some venues on campus, which was
Yeah.
actually very lucky because I was living in residence my first year. So if there was anything on campus, I could just, take my guitar and walk over to the next place. And I was actually lucky enough to perform at the Around the Bay Road Race this year in Hamilton, Ontario as well, which a few years back I wrote a song for the road race and kind of took one of my songs Around the Bay, which is a story about my hometown here in Hodges Cove, but I kind of took it and rewrote it to fit the race. So it was kind of fitting because, the Around the Bay Road race. So it wasn't much to it, but in the verses, I especially wanted to dive deep into the story of the road race and everything they've been doing over the years. So getting to sing and perform live for the road race was crazy. Like I was excited and I was looking forward to going there, but it was nothing I could have imagined. Like the organization and the work that's put into the road race is just amazing. And I mean, I was only, I performed I guess, the anthem somewhat at the beginning of the race. And then after I sang the song, it was kind of the start of the race. So everybody was lined up and everybody, as soon as I was done, it was like 3, 2, 1, now we're all running. And seeing everybody, you know, kind of running in front of you past that start line was just very moving because seeing all the dedication that not only they put into it, but the people organizing this goes like the work that's put into it. It was amazing. And I was, grateful to be a part of that thing too, right?
Mhm.
So I think any performance opportunities, I'm very, looking at more performing in Ontario for sure. Um, but right now it's, I'm lucky to be a part of these special moments.
Right. So, coming back to the musical "Come From Away" a bit, I just found out that the international passengers were not 9/11 survivors because none of them survived none of them who were passengers of the hijacked planes made out alive. But
Yeah.
obviously, the week after all of the planes taking off, or I guess transiting from Gander International Airport in Canada, Newfoundland,
Yeah.
obviously, were grounded. So they had to stay there for a while, these passengers from all over the world.
Yeah, exactly. And the amazing thing I think is that during this time of, crisis, Newfoundland and people in Gander especially, opened these doors to everybody who was
Mhm.
stranded, took them in and tried to make them feel as, you know, welcomed and comfort as possible, right? And I think that's my favorite thing about Newfoundland, especially, is the community. It's no matter where you come from, and I think that's the moral of the story for Come From Away, is no matter where you come from, it's you're always welcome.
Mhm.
You know.
Yeah, I think in the 4 years that I've been to Canada, that's one of the things I really like about it. and that there's a, especially in the town that I was in, Peterborough, Ontario, which is just a few, like an hour and a half bus trip away from Toronto.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was a it has a very vibrant community spirit, and I got to know a number of really good people there.
exactly. Oh, that's great.
Mhm. And I look forward to visiting Newfoundland too. So hopefully, hopefully being stuck at Gander International Airport during a transit somewhere, so I get the come from away treatment. Yeah, but speaking of, since you are an old school music loving gal, what do you think of Broadway musicals?
I love Broadway musicals.
Hmm.
I do. And actually, I seen they closed Phantom on Broadway the other day, and it was actually really sad because I haven't gotten a chance to go to New York yet and see any musicals on Broadway. So when I seen that that one was closing, I was really upset. But another one that I really want to see is Hadestown. I don't know if you're familiar with it,
I'm not
but
sure. Tell me about it.
yeah, well, it's kind of it tells of the Greek story of like Persephone and Hades
Oh,
and
oh, right.
Eurydice, and so
I know
um
that one.
yeah, so I'm very into I've always been into like the Greek mythology and stuff, whether it was like the Percy Jackson movies and stuff, or going to the library in school. And I remember this one big mythology book that just had like almost every story in it. But that always intrigued me. And when I seen that that was going on Broadway, I was like, this is so cool. And yeah, so I hope to see that one. And obviously, I'd love to see Come From Away on Broadway too, because even though I've seen it in Gander, I'd love to have that experience, just
Hmm.
the Broadway experience. So I hope to get to New York one day and see a bunch because, like I said, being in Kiwanis and stuff and doing the musical theater, I guess, category, I think that's where my love for it kind of came out. Like you get, and I love acting as well. So kind of taking those two loves of acting and singing, it kind of made the perfect thing. So I think growing up around that was, just something that it interests me. So one day I hope to get to New York and see a couple plays.
See, well, currently my two favorite musicals are Cabaret and Porgy and Bess, and
Okay.
I'm hoping to see Stephen Sondheim's West Side Story too. He recently passed away, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, no, I love West Side Story. I seen the Steven Spielberg adaptation actually, and I thought it was very well done. And I believe like it was Rachel Ziegler's like um
Oh.
first like film. And I can't even imagine saying that like Steven Spielberg's West Side Story was my first. Like
Mhm.
it's amazing. But no, I'm very interested in that too.
Mhm. Yeah, you should you should really look to the original classic. Yeah, the one with
Yeah.
Natalie Wood as Maria.
Yes. No, I like the original too, for
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah,
It's those
Leonard.
classic movies too, man.
Yeah.
Like the classic music, the classic movies. You just
Hmm.
can't go wrong.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It was the music was done by Leonard Bernstein, which is really nice too.
Yeah.
Um, I think another great American composer you should check out is Cole Porter. Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, it's I think because of the rock and roll era and stuff, people don't really listen to him all that much. But he was, at the time that he lived, he was one of the biggest names in American popular music and especially musicals too. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we have to check them out.
Hmm. And I also don't understand Cats. I'm not sure what that's about.
I mean, I've seen clips of it on Broadway, and I think Memory is from it, which I think is an amazing song and ballad. But I've seen like clips of the movie adaptation too, and I'm not gonna lie, it kind of scared me a little bit. So I don't know if I'm gonna watch that one anytime soon.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't think so either. I know that it was based on a whimsical book by T.S. Eliot, who's a favorite poet of mine.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but when you read T.S. Eliot's greatest poetry works, you wouldn't think to yourself that this guy wrote a book about cats that was turned into a musical. So yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Oh wow.
there's something there.
Yeah.
Mhm. What's your favorite venue to perform in St. John's?
Oh my goodness. I was a part of the Newfoundland Folk Festival for many years, and I truly loved singing on the Neil Murray stage, which is like the stage that everybody starts out on. And I love singing there. But in all honesty, I love like anywhere I get to perform, I kind of have a special connection to. And, it's almost like anywhere you get to perform, you can't go wrong with. So any place really is just an amazing time.
Mhm. I understand that you have an upcoming show on May the 11th, I believe.
Yeah, down to the ship in St. John. So I'm looking forward to singing alongside of some friends in the industry as well. So
Hmm.
looking forward to that for sure.
Yeah, I did see that the lineup consists of some very remarkable talents. You have Paige Penny and Darcy Scott, as well as Rachel and yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually met the first two, and I'm going to meet Rachel too. So I guess that complete the quartet.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm. So have you known these guys and gals for some time, or yeah, have you been friendly with them for some
Yeah,
time?
yeah. I think growing up and where we're all around the same age kind of,
Oh,
we
yeah.
you kind of grow up with these people in the music industry, right? So whether it was through Music and L or anything like that, we our paths crossed at some point or another.
Mhm.
So actually, Darcy, I met uh, when I was like 13 years old. I was able to go through the Trail of the Caribou for a heritage fair project, which I was really excited for. I couldn't believe that I was actually getting to do this. But he was actually on the trip, and I didn't realize that he was in the music industry the way he was until a few years later. And then I met him, through Music NL and stuff like that. So it was kind of cool to meet people not only through music, but through other things that I was a part of. But I think Music NL, and then I got to work with Rachel for the Come From Away album. But just, having these people that you grew up with kind of makes it even more of a community, you know? And I'm grateful to have the opportunity to have my paths cross with these people, frequently and see it. And now getting to do this show with them on May 11th, it's kind of exciting because not only are you doing this with fellow musicians, but you're also getting to do this with your friends.
Mhm. Yes, it's a lovely occasion too. And although I won't be there because I'm in another country, I promise you I'll be there in spirit.
Oh, thank you.
Mhm. So going back to your eclectic taste in music, tell us about the most recent five songs that you've listened to on, say, any streaming service of your choice.
Oh my goodness. The five most recent songs.
Mhm.
Oh, can I check my Spotify?
Sure.
Because
Yeah.
like this is actually like all over the place. That's a really good question, actually.
Mhm. Or
I
10 if you
actually
feel
have
like
this
it.
new playlist. What?
Or 10 if you feel like it.
Or 10. Yeah, I actually created this. I have a habit of making playlists for summer.
Yeah.
So I always like, summer 22 playlist, summer 23 playlist. So some of the most recent songs I have in my summer 23 playlist is Kelsey Ballerini, because she just released a new EP,
Mhm.
which I love. Um, some new songs off of Morgan Wallen's album. John Party. It's a lot of country music in here, but definitely, some rock in here too. I have Bill Withers,
Mm.
like Lovely Day by Bill Withers. So
Mhm.
that's another great song. Silver Springs, Fleetwood Mac.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, it's just a whole lot of everything. I have Gavin DeGraw in here as well, which, if anybody's familiar with the show One Tree Hill, my sister has me addicted to it. So I have a lot of his music in here. Led Zeppelin, Lenny Kravitz, Patti Smith, they're all in there. So like I said, it's a big variety of different singers.
Mhm. Yeah. Tell me about the
Yeah.
was it the Led Zeppelin and the Patti Smith and the Fleetwood Mac song. Like, what song in particular are you
Yeah.
listening to?
So for Fleetwood Mac in here, I have Silver Springs.
Mhm.
Um, Led Zeppelin, I have Black Dog.
Mm,
And Patti Smith, I have Because the Night, which was actually Bruce Springsteen wrote that
yeah.
song. I watched a documentary not too long ago and discovered that he actually wrote that song and she kind of made it big and then he started performing it after.
Ah,
But yeah, I really got into there's this new show out on Amazon Prime or Prime Video called Daisy Jones and the Six.
mhm.
So I've Patti Smith sings the I guess not soundtrack but like the theme song for it. There you go. So I've been obsessed with her recently and I've been watching a lot of live performances on YouTube. I
Mhm.
don't know why I've been into that recently, but I like watching them perform as opposed to just hearing them. So I'm actually going back to Led Zeppelin. I was actually watching Heart perform "Stairway to Heaven." That's
Oh,
if you
yeah.
haven't watched that video, you need to watch that video. It is so good. So basically, they were getting, I don't know if it was the Kennedy Center was awarding them with a distinction, and Heart came out to perform "Stairway to Heaven," and it was amazing. It was probably one of the best performances I've ever seen.
Well, yeah. I believe
Yeah,
Heart was found by two sisters, right? I remember one of them being
yeah,
Annie. I think it was Annie.
yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
No, they're very talented. They came to St. John's last summer actually, and I really wanted to see them, but unfortunately I wasn't able to. But definitely a band I would like to see.
I see. Well, I remember. Oh, the album is Dreamboat Annie, but I'm not sure what the members are. But in that
Yeah,
album,
I'm not
there's
sure.
this great song called "Crazy on You," which is yeah,
Yeah, great
incredible.
song.
So what can we look forward to when it comes to Abigail and her music?
Well, I'm hoping to, release some singles in the future, but definitely looking at doing a lot of summer performances. So keep an eye out on the social medias, and you might be able to see me around the island at some
Mhm.
point.
Yeah, I would love to grab your social media info after we finish recording this.
Yeah, for sure.
And we're about to soon enough because this is going to be the final question. This is one that I asked all of the musicians which has been on the show thus far. They've all given incredibly unique answers. And the question being, what does music mean to you?
Oh my goodness. To me, music means everything, if I'm being honest. Um, you know, and I feel like it's something to it, like you said, it does mean something different to everybody because I feel like music's been around my life almost every second, whether, you know, you're brushing your teeth, you're listening to music, you're driving your car, you're listening to music. And it's something that, I've used to get through some stuff. So anytime I, even if I'm bored, and I kind of use it as like, oh, I have to do homework. Like in high school, I was like, oh, I have to do homework. I'll do my homework and then I'll get to, perform and sing. And I love learning new songs too. So I think music's been a part of my life like since the very beginning. And music to me is really everything.
Well, on that
So
wonderful,
yeah,
lovely note, thank you very much, Abigail, for being on this show. Um,
thank you.
yeah, thank you for all the music that you've created thus far, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. You too.
Yes, take care.